In this episode of the Military Mindset for Business podcast, I'm talking with Andrew Schaverien from Ralph and Ralph Buyers Agency. Now, Andrew was an education officer. So you're like, what? What's an edo do? Well, we're going to unpack that and what Andrew did in the military, but then we're going to talk about his new business and why buyers agents are a really underutilized part of the real estate industry. So if you're interested in buying a home, like that's like everyone, stick around and have a listen because Andrew's going to give you some really good hints and tips. Take care. Let's talk soon. Welcome to another episode of the Military Mindset for Business podcast, the podcast for the veteran business community. And today I've got Andrew Schaverien. G'day, mate. How are you?
Yeah, all right. How are you?
Mate, I'm well. I love the diversity of businesses within our community, the diversity of experiences. As they say in the military, our individual experiences do vary. And I'm really looking forward to having a talk about your business and Ralph, mate. But as we kick off, where did you grow up?
So I grew up on the North Shore of Sydney, a little suburb called Castle Cove, for those who've actually heard of it.
Magic little spot there. Beautiful old bridge there, isn't there? Across the, is that
Yeah,
where the
so
old,
right next to it, there's the Roseville Bridge from
yep.
Roseville Chase across to French's Forest, Forestville. Castle Cove's got its own little castle um,
Yeah.
that is quite an unusual thing. I believe it was built in about the 30s, so it's not as old as you'd think of most castles,
Yeah.
but
Especially in
yeah.
Australia, mate. Apart from, the indigenous community, nothing's that old over here.
Yeah, exactly. There's some Aboriginal rock art there too, which is kind of cool.
Mate, beautiful spot to grow up. What made you want to join the military? Come from such a lovely, leafy suburb like Castle Cove.
Yeah, so I suppose I am a little unusual in that respect, but I always wanted to help people and help
Yep.
community. So I got into education, wanting to teach kids. Did 6 months of casual teaching and went, "Ooh, geez, this ain't great." Um, but thought, what are ways in which I can help people? And
Yep.
somehow I stumbled across the concept of an army education officer. I still, for the life of me, have no idea how I came across that. Um, and ended up going in with the intent to sort of help the people that help us. So I
Yep.
always saw the opportunity as me being able to give back to everyone providing a service rather than me as such providing that service. Uh, it, you
Help the
know,
helper.
yeah, exactly. Um,
Yeah. So when you did your study, that's what was your specialty in teaching? Like big
yeah,
kids,
so
little kids?
Yeah, so I became a PE and health teacher.
Oh, mate,
I
perfect.
I just loved sport. If honestly, if it wasn't for my mum, I probably would have dropped out of high school and ended up being either a soccer or a basketball coach. But
Yeah.
she kind of convinced me, being a primary education professor, convinced me that it'd be better to finish school and then jump into that. So I finished
Yeah.
school, and then she said, "Wouldn't it be good to get an exercise science degree?" I went, "Oh, that's a great idea." So I did that, and then she goes, "Wouldn't it be good in if you're a PE teacher?" So I did that too and became a PE teacher and then left that behind and joined the army instead.
Oh, mate, I tell you what, I reckon that we both should have just dropped out of school and become basketball coaches. That would have
Yeah, it
been
would have been good.
the perfect
Yeah,
job. It's my actual probably dream job if I could ever, get myself to the point of self-sustaining is just to coach kids playing basketball. So I'm, obviously I've got my Spurs cap here, mate. What, you're a Utah fan from memory, isn't it?
yeah, I was tempted to wear like a Utah Jazz jersey or hat or something, but I thought, oh, maybe not. Like, yeah,
Mate,
I know,
long-suffering Utah
tragic.
fan.
Yeah, tragic. And it's funny because I remember growing up and in our backyard we had a basketball hoop with a Chicago Bulls thing on it.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
parents got that when I was little because everyone was a Bulls fan at that stage, early 90s. And yeah, I must have ignored it and just became a Jazz fan instead.
Mate, they had some decent players, but I tell you what, you've got a drought ahead of you, that's for sure. But mate, I could absolutely do this as the tragic white boy from Sydney NBA fan. But let's get back to you. So you went into was that high school teaching and you did 6 months?
Yeah, I did 6 months. So it was casual teaching across New South Wales, but really across most of Sydney. So heaps of public schools I did a day at. There were,
Yep.
some fun experiences, some awkward experiences. I did some time at a few different private schools as well.
Yep.
Probably Riverview, St. Ignatius would have been the
Yeah. Beautiful spot. Yeah.
most that I went to, which was kind of strange being a former Sydney grammar boy myself.
Yeah.
They the boys quickly found that out and were interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, mate. That's one of the poshest schools in Sydney, I'm pretty sure, isn't it?
Yeah, so you know, St. Ignatius they've had a couple of prime ministers, I think, where I went to school at Sydney Grammar, they've had three. And
Yeah, right. Let me just think.
it's really, really intricate circle of very elite private schools that uh, provide pretty good networks.
Let me just think about how many prime ministers came from Katoomba High School. And I'm trying to stretch my, I'm trying to stretch my brain there, but I can't think. None really
Yeah.
come to mind. But mate, so education. You somehow stumbled across Army Education Officer. Did you go in as a was is it SSO?
Yeah, so SSO and I yeah, applied, got there. It was kind of an interesting story while they were recruiting were fumbling around a bit. They said to me, "Oh, we won't have anything until the new year, so do what you're doing." And I thought, oh, okay, fine, I'll retrain as a maths teacher. And I
Yep.
started putting my stuff in, and I was literally at the post box about to put an application in when I get a phone call from DFR at the time, who said to me, can you start on Thursday? I'm like, what do you mean? It's Tuesday. And they're like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Can you start on Thursday? I said, didn't you expect, weren't you telling me January? They go, yeah, yeah, but we've got a spot on Thursday. It's in Bonagilla. And I went, great, where's that? And they went, oh, it's near Bandiana. I'm like, mate, you're not helping. They,
Yeah.
they
Where's
go,
that?
they're like, it's in Wodonga. I go, come on, I'm a Sydney boy. Where is this? They're
Yeah.
like, it's next to Albury. And I go, is that near Canberra?
No.
Like, and then 2 days later, I'm driving down to Albury Wodonga.
But it's funny, like you say, hey, can you start on Thursday? It almost sounds like you're starting a job, mate, rather than joining the army.
Yeah, exactly. It was so weird. So, turn up, sign up, do the oath. They say report to Vic Barracks. I report to the guardhouse saying, "Hey guys, I'm reporting here." They're like, "What do you mean you're reporting here?" Well, I don't know. They're like, "Who are you?" I'm like, "I think I'm a lieutenant." Like,
Yeah.
um, so they give you pips. You head down. I'm there for like 2 months before SSO course starts. So,
Yeah.
my commander, like, all right, don't get any uniform yet. Like, we'll teach you how to walk, we'll teach you how to talk, like all
Yeah.
these things that just seemed wild. Um,
Because because you've got a rather unique way in, particularly the SSO, because we know that, you know, well, I don't know what the numbers are, maybe 80% of people going through a very formal process of Kapuka, maybe 10-15% go through that very formal process of either RMC or ADFA. But the SSO world is a rather quirky little you basically just turn up and do a knife and fork course, as we call it. And
yeah,
then all of a sudden, bang, there you are.
yeah, but I
Commissioned
mean,
officer.
you turn up before you get commissioned before that. That's
Yeah.
that's the worst part of it, right? Because you're actually walking around having learned nothing.
Yeah.
And my chain of command didn't want me in a uniform because there's trainees everywhere at Latchford Barracks. They're like,
You
if
literally
you,
don't even know how to salute. And they'd be like,
yeah,
hey, good
not
morning,
a
sir. And
clue.
you'd just be like, what do I do
Yeah,
here?
yeah. I walk in the first day and I've got a couple of sappers and a corporal reporting to me as
Yeah.
multimedia technicians in Army Learning Production Center,
Yeah.
and introduce myself. I'm like, hey guys, I'm Andrew, and they're like, hey sir. I'm like, what? What do you mean?
No.
Um, just even that didn't add up. So it was a steep learning curve, and
Oh,
the knife fork spoon course, as they call it, I like to describe it as how they can tell you about absolutely everything that happens in 18 months of Duntroon, but not teach you any of it.
yeah.
Right?
Just do it like this.
Yeah.
I just want to get something out the way because I know that you've got um a little bit of a case of pogitis, in terms of like do it like we all, but
Yeah.
uh military service is a spectrum and it is like we said, individual experiences vary, but I just want to get this education officer thing out the way is that every job in the military is important. Obviously, you and I are not war fighters, and nor do we claim to be or claim to steal any of those cred. But I just want to get that out the way because every role in the military has a purpose. Every job is important, and and your service counts, just as much as anyone else.
Yeah, I appreciate that, but yeah, it is a thing that I certainly feel a bit strange about, and it's taken me a while to, get used to Anzac Day with my chest full of metal,
Yeah,
as I like to refer to it, that the one sitting there,
yeah,
and I've found myself between worrying that people are looking at me like, you didn't do anything, and between people going, not being able to tell the difference between myself and someone who hasn't actually finished uni yet and hasn't done anything, right?
yeah,
Like, but then again, my service was support. It was always meant to be support. It was exactly that. And I've reached a stage where I'm proud of it, and my kids seem to enjoy the medal plus another one that I got working as a public servant for New South Wales Police. So they wear the two. I wear them on different sides because state and federal. So it looks a bit funny, but yeah.
well, mate, we don't steal valor. We don't claim to be anything we're not. So, mate, as I said, every little bit's important. But what does an edgo do?
Yeah, so a lot of defense writing marking was was one of the things that was the bane of my existence, but
Defense writing marking.
and
Like
teaching.
just
So
teaching.
like
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, so you teach minute writing, you teach demi-officials, all those fun things that everyone hated. You mark them or you review them for people, that sort of stuff.
yeah,
That was horrible. However, the job itself was a bunch of different like training and education postings. So
yeah,
my first one was developing computer-based learning. So it felt like sort of early days of trying to get things onto the internet for
yeah,
learning, and we were still doing it on CDs, DVDs. And then I went from there into a position where I was teaching the Certificate 4 of Training and Education, whilst
yep,
also doing administration for a whole bunch of Army undergraduate scheme people. So people who were at university, technically commissioned officers, they were studying to become doctors, nurses, physios, engineers, all kinds of different things. Um, Chaplains as well in there.
yep.
And then from there, I went into Forcom, which I think you were there at that
That's with me,
stage
mate.
as
Yep,
well. Yeah. Um, and at that point, it was looking at the policy and strategy of training and education across Army. So managing the Army training instructions and sort of providing guidance to some of the training centers. Uh, and then I went to a position where I was teaching mostly SIGs how to um, read and write, and it was quite strange because they're pretty intelligent people,
yeah.
but it was kind of literacy and numeracy training down at Simpson, and
So
bits and pieces.
when is the point in this illustrious and exciting, career that you're thinking that, potentially it's time to transition and do something else?
Yeah, so it was funny. I met my wife while I was posted to Holsworthy,
Yeah.
and it was
Must have been uniform, mate. Yeah, was it?
yeah, definitely, right? And when I asked her parents permission to propose, do the traditional thing,
Yeah.
I got a response that probably was a little unusual, but they were okay with it, obviously.
Yeah.
But they were a bit worried about the moving around thing, and
Yeah.
and I said to them, look, this isn't going to be my long-term career. This is for now, right? And it's
Yeah.
it's good. So my wife and I moved down to Melbourne together. Um, what I didn't have the greatest of experiences down there, and then I found that it due to blockage in the core, promotion was probably unlikely for a while, and I
Mhm.
started looking. I started thinking, okay, what's my next step? What's something that I can progress my career, progress who I am, and still help people? So it took probably 18 months or so, and then I stepped out to work at New South Wales Police, great job, like leading up the review of education almost across the organisation.
Mate,
Yeah,
I'll just share my little one when I asked my father-in-law if I could marry his daughter. And he just sort of looked at me across the desk and went, well, what does she think? I'm like, well, I don't know yet because that's why I'm asking you first. But mate,
great
coppers.
response.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like, anyway, we got on well now, which is good. Um, the coppers, so you left the military and went into coppers?
Yeah, so I was a public servant. I
Okay, yeah, yeah.
wasn't the uniform side of
Uniformed,
that,
yeah, yeah.
and yeah, and in a position I think at that stage it was called Education and Training Command. We changed command names
Yeah.
3 or 4 times in the 3 years I was there. Um,
Well, senior leadership's got to have
standards.
something to do, mate. It's just
Yeah,
like the
right.
army, restructure
Yeah.
and rename. That's what gets you an OAM, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so my team reviewed everything across the learning spectrum in police, which meant that they were looking at the homicide course at the same time as looking at bicycle cops or mounted
Yep.
police or counterterrorism, all sorts of stuff. And it gave me this insight to seeing all different aspects of what protects our community, which was really cool. And it was very rewarding and fulfilling. But it ran its course fairly quickly, unfortunately.
Again, another help the helper role. What do you think the differences were culturally between the two organizations? Any preference one over the other, or
Yeah, I think both had their ups and downs.
yeah,
I preferred the structure of defense, the sort of community feel, and the fact that y- whilst there was a big difference in rank, you felt at times that your two-star was in a way on equal footing to an NCO, right? You
hmm
you almost felt that there were people carrying the uniform, and you were always reminded that you salute the rank, not the person, right?
yeah,
And there was that reminder. I felt in police it was far more, this is who I am because I'm this rank. And
mm.
um, uh, it was interesting in that aspect.
So, mate, after the coppers, was it just a contract that ran out, or was it time to start doing something different?
No, so a decision was made higher up at the
Yep.
same time as changing commissioners that they wanted to replace all their education and HR professionals or senior professionals with police officers. So my position was replaced with a uniformed officer, and
Right.
yeah, I was given a New South Wales government redundancy, which is not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah. So what's next here? What's the next chapter?
So I moved into KPMG, and I worked in learning and development, mostly contracting back to defence. But there was, contracting to government, to banks, to different places all over the place.
Where's the seed for enterprise coming? Is the itch to scratch your own business always here? Because we'll talk about Ralph shortly. But has this always been a passion? Because it sounds like you've found yourself quite nestled in, administrative or bureaucratic structures and been quite comfortable there.
Yeah, I always felt like I didn't quite fit in those
Yep.
structures. Like I always wanted to do things differently. I always wanted to try something innovative. Even to the extent that at police, I encouraged and pretty much, let's be honest, forced my team to have innovative culture on the side. So it was a
Yep.
thing of going, guys, sure, get your work done as much as you can, but I want up to 10% of your time spent on something innovative. Every single person needs to think of something that helps either our team, the organization, the community, and use our resources to put that into place. And knowing that I have ideas, others will have ideas. It was this thing that I really wanted to push and help with. In fact, probably the thing that I'm most proud of, well, one of the things that I'm most proud of in my career, um, is one of my senior constables had been a detective for a long period of time before moving into this education space, and I
Yep.
had given him this innovation thing, and he came to me and said, "Look, I've been a detective for ages. I wouldn't know how to go back to general duties if I had to.
Yeah.
If I get promoted, I could be back in general duties. Can I create a course that teaches people that?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, mate." So we worked on that for a few months, and then COVID started, and Mick Fuller, the commissioner at the time, reached down to education and said, "I need a course that teaches people how to go back to general duties because
We need
it's going to
people back on
happen.
the
We
street.
need people back, and I need it yesterday." At which point, my boss came to me, and I just went to her, "Yeah, sure, here it is." So
You've already done it.
she
Yeah.
she just gave that to him, and he must have been going, "How on earth did that happen?" Like
Yeah.
it happened because I had someone in my team who had the initiative and the foresight to do that, which I was so immensely proud of, and
Was that
made
something
sure he
that you
got credit.
shared? Or was that something you shared, that sort of that 10% mentality, or was able to spread to anyone else? Or was it sort of insular within your section?
I think it pretty much stayed within, unfortunately.
Hmm.
Other areas were hesitant to do it because there was just so much work on, right? We had, I calculated the amount of work and the review of education, the number of courses. We had like 7 years worth of work at any given time, right?
Yeah.
You can't achieve it. So I was like, well, if we're not going to achieve it, let's use another 10% for something effective anyway.
Yeah.
Like,
I love that method. I love that simple methodology. And to be honest, what it could do in terms of creating momentum and also a bit of diversity within the team in terms of the projects that you're running on. Um, you can lose 10% just in presenteeism just by being bored doing stuff anyway.
yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I think that's brilliant. Well, mate, where does this buyer's agent thing come into this?
Yeah, so I've got to admit, I just enjoyed trying to buy my own house.
Yep.
Um, so I kind of felt like I was acting as a buyer's agent throughout anyway. We had so many moving pieces with my parents, my in-laws, my wife and myself, and kind of having an idea as to what we wanted, but not really knowing what we wanted. So it took some time, and the whole way through, I was like, "Hey, I'm
I
enjoying
like it.
this." Like
Yeah.
communicating with all the agents, looking at places, and I went. At one point, I thought, "Oh, what's going to give me an advantage?" So I did my certificate for of real estate, thinking this will give me an advantage buying. It didn't. It wasn't great education.
Especially from
But
an edge officer, mate. You are, you know,
yeah,
you're
yeah,
you're a hard person to please in this space.
yeah, yeah. It was yeah, something special, and every piece of learning, as you said, as an education officer, like, oh my God, if you're if you're doing any piece of learning, you're judging it, and I
Yeah.
certainly was judging that. But yeah, finished that. Thought I had to work as a sales agent before I worked as a buyer's agent.
Yep.
And decided to give it a crack when I had, I think my son was like 8 weeks old or something, and I thought, why not? Let's give it a go. Why not do a career change at this time? Um,
Perfect timing, mate.
yeah,
Like you've got a supportive bride that's, take the plunge, mate. You'll be right.
yeah, exactly. And I did a very, very short period of time on the sales side and hated it. Like
Yeah.
there was uh, the methodology annoyed me anyway, and the endless phone calls and door knocking. But also, I couldn't work out. It was very much a selling role, but you weren't selling the houses. It was kind of selling your service, and I couldn't work
Mm.
out what I was providing that was any better than anyone else, and it didn't fit with me because I couldn't. I felt like I couldn't help people. So I moved on to the buyer side, worked for someone for a while, and that didn't end the way I wanted it to. I felt like the way in which we saw the world, the way in which we saw property, the way in which we saw our role was very different. And
Yeah.
I went, no, I'm gonna start my own, and I've brought back Ralph and Ralph. It's not I'm not gonna see myself as a founder because my grandfather and his brother-in-law, they were the founders.
Oh, bro. Um, Grandfather and his brother-in-law, both Ralph and Ralph, were they in this
Yeah.
this space as well?
Yeah, so they founded it. It was an estate agency. He would have been
Yeah.
very angry for me to call it real estate, but
Yeah.
different country. He was in the UK uh, back in 1948. Ralph Chevron and Ralph Silverstone founded Ralph and Ralph as an estate agency. Um, Ralph Silverstone didn't stay the course. He moved off to Birmingham, did his thing. And my grandfather, Ralph Chevron, kept it running right through to the 90s. He actually retired at the age of 94.
Oh, wow.
Um, I know it's so strange because growing up, I never really thought about what he did after the war. I just knew he was a World War II veteran. He was an intelligence officer. He got a field commission because he could speak French, and
Yeah.
having made it to corporal and then crossed to I think second lieutenant and all the way to major. He didn't talk about it a lot. He spoke about it with my wife, surprisingly. Um, but yeah, I'd been to open homes with him when I was a little kid. Like I remember I must have been like 8 and he would have been in his 80s or 90s and opening up a home. And these people must have been walking and going, why is there a child and an old man here? This makes no sense.
Mate, what a great legacy. Well, what a great way to honor the legacy and how, things come full circle. Um,
Yeah.
just let's go back to basics for anyone who doesn't understand. What does a buyer's agent do relative to a selling agent?
Yeah, so a buyer's agent represents a buyer. So you need to have the same qualification and same licensing as a selling agent. But the buyer's agent will do everything for a buyer. So it will go down to searching for properties, talking with agents, finding off markets, finding on market things that you might see in real estate or domain. Once you have a look at them, you can do an analysis of them, work out everything you need to know about the property, going through the contract, but not doing the contract side of it. That's still
Yep.
solicitors or conveyancers. Finding issues that may present, checking if there's flood zones, bushfire zones, heritage conservation, any issues with the property, and then uh, if their buyer wants it or their client at that stage wants to proceed, the full negotiation, securing the property and right through to settlement. So helping with uh, pre-settlement inspection and everything before, right until keys are in your hand.
Why? Let me think here. There's a lot of bad press at the moment, particularly over the last weekend, about Sydney being the underquoting
Underquoting
capital
capital.
of the
Yeah.
world. And there's a little bit of name and shame with a couple of agencies out there. In terms of reputation, the military, we've got military and police, a strong societal reputation. Selling real estate agents, slightly less so. How do you feel a buyer's agent is different to that from a reputation perspective, and why?
Yeah, look, I hate to say it, but buyer's agent kind of tarred with the same brush, right?
Yeah,
And
but they're
and
very different, isn't it?
yeah, but the industry has both, right? The industry has a lot of very, very dishonest people in it on both sides, on buying and selling side. But it also
Yep.
has quite a few um, honest and helpful people. Part of the problem comes down to industry norms. So there's expectations of how someone is behaving and expectations of how to approach agents. Like,
Mm.
um, if you go into an open home yourself and you're looking to buy, uh, there's a belief that you shouldn't tell the agent what you think, because you
Because you're going to
don't know
hide that
whether
from them because you don't
to
want to give your
trust them.
secrets away. Yeah.
And yeah, and that part is absolutely wrong. Like if you like a property and you've gone into it, tell the agent you like it. Like absolutely must tell them you like it because otherwise they may sell it without you even being aware. And then
Yep.
you'll go back to them and go, "Hey, why didn't you tell me?" Well, because you didn't say you liked it. But also, if you say you have a budget of a certain amount, the expectation is you probably have more. And to be honest, you probably need to not tell them your absolute top dollar anyway, because if you do, you know, you're just not going to be able to get things. They'll show you endless things that won't achieve it. So it's almost an industry built on a degree of shadows.
Mm.
Um, and it's something that I'm coming to feel comfortable with because for me, honesty and integrity above all. It's like the absolute must in everything that I do because you can't help people unless you're honest with them. So I feel like I am an outlier. However, there are other honest people. They're probably just better at being a little shady here and there, you know?
But when this one of the things that I always think about real estate, and as you know, as Australians, we all love our property and investments and all of this, but the numbers we throw around are sometimes a little bit, what's the right term? They don't apply context to everyday life. So if you're going to buy something and it's 1.37 and oh, maybe I'll get it for 1.36 or 1.35, we're talking about, they seem like little increments. These are like 10 grand every little bit. And it's
Yeah.
actually, where do you say it's really tough, particularly if you've got a job to save 10 grand,
Yeah.
and when you say, oh, we'll go from 1.52 down to 1.48, that's like 40,000 bucks of after tax money that you might take, if you
Yeah.
might take a
It
long time
can
to
take
save that.
months. Yeah.
And we
Like
throw
months to
these
earn
numbers
it.
around so
Like,
flippantly.
yeah. Yeah, I see it at auction every weekend and I try to remind myself when I'm bidding at auction, either for myself or other people, like every time I raise my hand, I'm committing, a month. I'm committing 5 months. I've raised my hand committing 2 years before,
Yeah.
right? Like it's a wild, wild um, situation to be in. But unfortunately, it's kind of a reality in that. I think it's just important to remember the context. So understanding what your budget is and being able to not go over that, then you're effectively only going the other way. You're going, I can save myself months, I can save myself a year, I can save myself this amount because you're not going over, you're not committing more time to it or anything like that.
And I just want to highlight that point again because it's something that's not a way I've ever thought of it, but I think it's super clever. Is that every time you put your hand up, it may be retiring 3 months later, or maybe retiring 2 years later, or delaying something else significantly. And how do you feel that FOMO mentality just drives people to just got to get it? And like, you must see people do crazy things. You're like, you go into auctions every weekend. It
Yeah.
just seems like a crazy way to be.
Yeah, so I mean, I was at one on Saturday where I felt I was watching a divorce happen.
Yeah,
So I
wow.
was like, this guy was holding a paddle, and his wife kept bidding, and he was saying to her, "Stop." And she reached a point where he went, "You're over our budget," like loud enough for everyone to hear. Um, and she kept going, and he put his paddle down and walked out, and she picked it up and kept bidding.
did, she,
Thankfully,
did she win?
thankfully she didn't. Someone else beat her. Someone else had more money, right? But I was so worried for them. I actually caught up with them outside and went, "Hey, you guys okay?" And they sort of like calmed down. They were, comfortable-ish.
Okay, let's look at that moment there, right? The pressure, the stress, the pain that, you know, average Joe and like me as well. I've never done an auction for property, to be honest. The only time I've ever bought a property, we bought an investment property, a place called Yamina Beach. It had 800,000 on it. Like you do. I just went in and said, "Oh, give you 720," and they said, "Okay." And I was like, "Oh, really? Maybe I should have said something less." But that is my one and only experience of ever, buying property. But the I don't want to say trauma. That's a bit of a strong word, but definitely the tension, the stress, and the pain that couple's going through. What does a buyer's agent step in there and take away? So what would you do for that couple if they said, "Andrew, can you just sort this out for us?"
Yeah, so if they were just going for an auction service, which I've got to admit I love, it's not a great earner, but I love
Yeah.
doing it.
So
You
people
kind
can
of,
pay you just to do the bidding for them.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that one I discuss with them what I see the property to be worth, what I think the market may pay for it, and then work out what they're willing to pay for it, right? There are kind of three different prices in property in my mind. There is the actual value, there's the market value, and there is the personal value, particularly on your own home. If you're an
Mm,
investor, there is not a personal value. You should not be emotional and going higher, it needs to be market value at absolute most.
yeah.
Um, and you discuss that, you come up with what is their maximum, you give them tips, you give them strategy, and you discuss it, and then I go and bid for them, right? So they can either be there or not. It doesn't really matter. If they're not there, they need to appear to sign, like come at the end of it to sign the contract or give permission for the auctioneer to sign it on their behalf.
Yep.
And basically, when I'm bidding, I'm watching the room, I'm working out what's happening around me, and keeping my emotions in check. Admittedly, it's easier with someone else's money. However, I want to
Yeah.
save them as much as I possibly can. So I've got to read what's happening and commit where possible or where needed and hold back where possible.
Just
Um,
seems like a brilliant game of poker,
yeah,
in
it's
terms
great.
of, and I guess you can't go in there with the same like technique. You just can't blast. There's the blast them out of the water technique, or there's the dripping
Yeah,
tap technique, or
yeah, so read what's in front of you is the way I treat it. So I'll talk to them about what possible strategies could happen, but I'll read what's in front of me. I'll look at how many other people turn up, what they do, and whether what I need to do. So I actually had one about a month ago, bought an apartment for someone, and it sounds funny. Whenever I say it, bought an apartment for someone, they bought it, I helped them buy it. Um, but we're at auction. They'd given me a budget. I knew where I was at. Um, and I went the bully tactic, right? I'm a guy in a suit standing there against a first home buyer who's trying her best to secure something. But
yep,
I've got other first home buyers that I'm representing there. Um, so at least I don't feel guilty about that. She
just
she
doing your job,
start
mate.
yeah, she starts strong, so I just smash her out of the water straight away, right?
Yeah.
She pauses, she turns around, she has a chat with her parents and puts in another strong bid. I just smash her straight away, right?
Is it smashing like with the
Um,
time? Like no
like
delay. It's just like bid, bid.
no delay. She's put 10 grand, I put 20,
Yeah.
right? Like go
Like I'm here to
away.
play.
Yeah, go away. We've got endless money. They've hired me because we've got endless money, right?
Yeah.
They don't, obviously.
It's
But
all a
that's,
charade.
yeah. We reach a point where she's pushing and pushing and pushing, and I've reached the top, right? I am 1 grand away from the top of their budget. So I know I've made my last bid. And I'm standing there waiting and waiting and waiting. She's discussing something with her parents again. Auctioneer makes some comment about the sun, oh, great day, beautiful day, sun's out, blah, blah, blah. And I go, oh, here's my chance. I go, oh, mate, maybe for you with your full head of hair, point at
Yeah.
myself, right? And everyone has a bit of a giggle about it, and then I stand staring and I look over at her, and at that point, I think I could see that she knew I had another 200 grand to go, despite the
Yeah.
fact I only had one.
1,000
Out,
bucks. Yeah.
done,
And she just
right?
shook her head and said, "That's it."
Yep. No, that was that, right? Like it's kind of how well can you play poker? And I'm a shocking liar, um, but when it comes to poker, I'm a bit better. When it comes to auctions, easy, right?
Easy. Love this space.
Yeah.
And you're like, let's go back to it again. Even if it's 880, 890, 900, this is 10 grand. I'll go back another month, another 6 months to save that money. You engage someone like you that can take the emotion out of it. Uh, and it's not just the humble, investment in you to get it done. It's the saving of time in those months, or if not years, of reaching where you want to be. And
Yeah.
even the capacity, like if you, so do you focus primarily on investing or owner occupier?
No, I prefer owner occupier. Like I will help investors,
Yep.
but the area that I service, so I will go anywhere in Sydney for an auction in particular. I'll go
Yeah.
anywhere in Sydney for different aspects, but my main focus is the North Shore, right?
Yeah.
And it's a great place to live. Like it's a really good long-term investment in terms of your capital growth. But
Yep.
when it comes to like a rental yield, it's terrible when it
Yeah.
comes to like your investor trying to build up over time. They'll get a great capital growth, but their rental yield's rubbish, and they'll get taxed on that capital growth if they're not living in it. So,
Yeah. Absolutely.
I do deal a lot more with owner occupiers here. Not to say some investors don't like it.
I sort of feel that as well with your nature or personality of literally wanting to help people. The moment of getting people a home, it's got to be a special little, it's
Yeah,
got to be a special moment, obviously for them, but it give you a buzz, mate, when you see that. Hey, we
huge
got it.
buzz.
We got it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I
Uh,
mean, it's one of the most exciting things that they have in their lives, right? You buy
yeah.
your own home maybe once in your life, maybe up to 4 or 5 times in your life.
Yeah.
But each time it happens, it's huge. It's a huge moment in your life. So it's cool to be part of that and to be able to help people.
Brilliant. So, mate, apart from auction bidding, what other things like, so you can, what are your products? Let me come down to, so you got auction bidding product one. Uh,
Yep.
let's call it the whole shebang, which
Yep.
is
Full
everything start to
service. Yep.
finish, full
Yep.
service. What else can you do?
Yeah, so there's kind of the halfway between is the next thing,
Yep.
which is negotiation only. So if you found a property that you love, but you don't know how to go about it, I'll come in, I'll put the values on it, so I'll work out what it's worth, what the market may pay for it, and then discuss with you what you think it's worth or what it's worth to you. Um, I'll look at all of the analysis of it again back into, flood risk, bushfire risk,
Yep.
heritage conservation, quality of build, when it was built, everything you could possibly need to know, potentially developments around it occurring, so you'll understand your noise issues. Um, and then I'll negotiate on your behalf with the agent, which is admittedly a lot easier. It's quite strange going in as a buyer. You'll ask an agent a question and they'll give you some round the loop answer. As a buyer's agent, you ask the same question, you'll get a straight answer, right?
I was
Because
going to ask
it's
that actually.
professional
Yeah.
to professional.
Yeah. You sort of took the next question out of my mouth. The
Yeah.
difference in the relationship or the power balance between you being in the game versus just another fish on the hook, kind of thing. Do you
Yeah.
find that there is that just cut through and they don't waste your time and vice versa? And there's an opportunity
Yeah.
to potentially, collaborate. They see a mutual value in what you do as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So most agents will prefer dealing with buyer's agents because it's professional to professional.
Yeah.
Others won't. I've got to be honest, I would be wary of the ones that don't want to deal with buyer's agents because normally the
Classic underquotas
reason,
then.
not necessarily underquoters, but they're wanting the top dollar, right? So they're really, really going to push. If you're selling your house, they're almost the ones you want. If you're
Yeah. Yeah.
buying, you want to avoid them. Um, and yeah, so it depends on agent, but yeah, you kind of build a relationship and you get to know each other. You get to know each other personally. And particularly with some agents, like I know about their family, they know about mine. We
Yeah.
will go for drinks together. Like we'll understand each other. So when it comes to negotiation, it's kind of easier, right?
Yeah.
It's almost as if negotiating with friends. It just makes it simple. Um,
Sort of. The other thing too is like you can hang on for weeks and weeks and weeks looking for that top dollar, but there's also tempo in here of like,
yeah,
get onto your next listing, get onto your next
yeah,
sale.
yeah.
Put
So
that one in the bank and crack on.
sales agents talk about 90% of the job being finding the listing. The
Mm.
the 10% is the selling it. So you'll find different types of agents deal with it differently. You'll have your young and hungry that really want to get the absolute top dollar because that'll help them look good. It'll help them get the next listing. It'll,
Yeah.
give them a bit of a ego boost as well. You have your middle of the road that are kind of you realistic. They'll have discussions. They'll negotiate. Um, they'll do right by their client whilst not pushing buyers too much. They want everyone to be happy, right? And then you have your third sort, which are generally the ones closer to retirement, but not always. Uh, that just go, yeah, okay, I've got the listing. Let's move on. So I'll sell it whatever I can sell it for.
Yeah.
If that means pushing their vendor down or whatever, which actually brings me to the final service that a buyer's agent can provide. Not all do. I do as part of Ralph and Ralph, which is vendor advocacy.
Mm.
So that's kind of helping people find the right agent, helping them interview a few, and then helping them manage and liaise with that agent so that the process of selling is a bit easier for them. And
Yeah. So just unpack that for layman's terms. If you're looking to sell your house and you're wanting to cut through the veneer or the sales pitches of all of the, I don't want to necessarily, they're not all greasy real estate agents, but if you want to find the quality ones, then you can work with you to help be that advocate or representative to find someone or the right kind of fit. You might want
yeah,
someone who's going to push that top dollar. You might want someone but you understand
yeah,
what they want and you help them go get it.
exactly. Yeah. So
Plus,
that,
plus just being able to have someone in the industry be able to help hold them accountable.
yeah,
I think that's got to be a
yeah.
massive one. Like how, you got 10 listings on your sheet. How much love are you giving my listing versus, the other 10?
Yeah, and what's your team? What's their experience? What are they contributing? What are you doing in order to sell those
Yeah.
and sell those in the best way for that client, which 9 out of 10 times is get the top dollar,
Yeah.
but there may be other aspects that are important to people who are
Yeah.
selling.
Like I had a mate just maybe a couple of weeks ago. He was like, "Oh, this house hasn't sold for like months. It's been on the market now for 4 or 5 months." I'm like, "When did you speak to the real estate agent last?" He's like, "I haven't spoken to him for about 6 weeks." I'm like, "Get onto it, mate. The
Yeah,
squeaky wheel
that's
gets
not
the
good.
oil.
Yeah,
They're just ignoring you because they're focusing on other people." Finally
yeah,
gets on the phone, gives them a bit of a blast. The house sells within 2 weeks.
yeah.
So it's all part of the game, though, isn't it?
Yeah, and if they're not talking to you after every open or at least every week, then what are they doing?
Yeah,
Right? It's their job. They need to talk to you and update you on how many people came through, what's the interest, what steps are they taking, how are they still following the strategy? What are they expecting from here? What do we need to refine? Like, if you've been on the market for what was that, 4 or 5 months,
yeah,
like do you need to pull it off the market and relist it, right?
yeah,
Which is, not great, but what you do by doing that is everyone who's started looking in the period since you listed it now sees a new property, whereas those people who were looking already 6 months earlier and probably should have a buyer's agent, by the way,
yeah.
but the people who were looking 6 months earlier will go, oh, I know this place. I've already been to it. I remember that coming. That's not new, but who cares? They've seen it. They've already dismissed it, right?
Well, mate, who are the kind of people that should be looking for a buyer's agent? Particularly, well, there's lots of difference because there's, investors and there's, if you're looking for a house in Perth, it's probably not the right thing. But if you're looking in the North Shore of Sydney, so that's from the harbour to probably Beecroft. Is that right?
Yeah, so I mean, most of what my focus is sort of Northbridge through Kalara, which I like to call the middle North Shore, but
Yep.
can extend all the way to the harbour, extend all the way up to Hornsby at a push.
Yep.
But yeah, and Beecroft, Carlingford, all that, sure. Um, but yeah,
But basically, if you're busy and you're sick of trawling real estate and domain every weekend and just feel like you're not getting traction, a buyer's agent is the kind of thing. But not only is it going to get it done for you, but it's probably going to save you money by having an insider be realistic about what you're looking for. So it's actually
Yeah.
going to get it done cheaper and probably done faster.
Yeah, yeah. Provided you go to the right buyer's agent, they'll be able to get that negotiation done more likely to be better than you. The aspect of time saving that you mentioned there, that's a big one, right? So if you calculate what your hourly rate is based on your work week, your wage, and you then consider that you're going to be spending 4 to 6 hours every Saturday
Yeah.
with, that's family time lost as well. But if you
Yeah.
put your hourly wage into that and you were to calculate what is that over 3 months, what is that over 6 months, you'll probably find that hiring a buyer's agent actually saves you money,
Yeah.
just on
Plus,
on that time alone, your personal time value.
and let's not forget, 2.2 to 2.4, there's
Massive. Yeah.
$200,000, man. How long do you have to work for to save $200,000? Um, Mate, just share before we wrap up, just share about off market.
Yeah, so off market is basically everything that's not going to be listed, or may be listed in the future. It's the kind of secret market that agents have. They have all these properties um, that you can get access to look at. They may be testing the market, so you need to be wary of the price on that test. They may be wanting to sell quietly for personal reasons, or they may just be preparing to go to market and they want some people to come through first just to shore up the actual guide price that they're putting on it. Well, that's those ones predominantly won't be under guided because
Yeah,
they'll have a bit of feedback before they hit market.
mate. Then there's always the 3 Ds: death, divorce, and default. In terms of there's always deals out there. Just before we go,
Yeah.
can you share? You're also an author. You've written a book about this.
Yeah, yeah. So I've written a children's book. It's called My Family is Buying a House. It's available on Amazon, but it's basically a little girl's viewpoint as her family buys a house. So going through the focus of her parents being upset when they've gone to auction. She doesn't fully understand
Yeah.
why they're upset. There's going to the bank where, she has no idea why, but her grandma's telling her it's to give lots of money, right through to actually getting the house. And she's excited about that. But I kind of based it off my own daughter's experience, or how I saw my daughter's experience in us buying a house. So
And
I'm
I've
pretty happy
never,
with
we
that.
sort of, apart from looking for kids' bedrooms, you don't really consider or think too much about what this experience is like for them and the upheaval and, new home and what that means. Mate, appreciate you coming on and sharing about, your journey as an edger, mate. Be proud of it. I'm glad you are.
Yep.
But most importantly, what I really feel is, you're taking this next passion project into being your next part of your career and being able to, deliver with the, integrity and character that this industry like sorely needs. So, mate, we will put all of the details for Ralph and Ralph into the show notes in the chat. And mate, I really appreciate you joining today.
Yeah. Thank you. It was
Champion.
fun.
Mate, you take care. This is Pete Liston. Thanks for listening to Andrew and I on, the Military Mindset for Business pod. Out.